learn to improve conversions and generate more leads with the video podcast at marketingoptimization.tv. Hi, and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're chatting with Hunter Boyle from AWeber. How you doing, Hunter?
I'm doing well, Alex. Thanks for having me on. Good talking with you.
Thanks for coming on. To get started, what is your definition of optimization, and why is it beneficial?
My definition of optimization is consistently working to improve results. And it's not just SEO or conversion rate optimization. It really is a little bit broader. You can kind of take your experiments into account as well as things that you do offline that really help try and drive your response rates. So conversions are big. Obviously, your different ROI and bottom line indicators and metrics for sales, things beyond conversions. So pulling all that together is kind of how I see optimization in a bigger picture sense.
Yeah, now being an AWeber, you must see some really great examples of great content marketing specifically focused on conversion. And that's what I want to talk all about today is, are you building a list, an audience, or a community? Content marketing focused on conversion, or in your presentation, content that converts. What would be some examples of high value, multiple format content?
So that's a really great question. And you're right. We're very blessed to have a great number of clients and people who use our service that are very, very good at content. There are a lot of names that I'll be kind of using as examples as far as some people in marketing and organizations that are doing things really well. I think for content these days to succeed, one of the biggest trends that we're witnessing is the move away from just one format. So, for example, when I started the Internet Marketing Report blog in 2005, there were podcasts and they had, some prominence. There were certainly things happening besides blogs back then, but it was very focused on that one format at that time. So fast forward to kind of where we are now, and a lot of podcasts. This one is a great example. Some other ones on Conversion XL. There are many. Pat Flynn's podcast is a great one. There are a number of different formats that use video podcasting, audio podcasting. There are a whole lot of things that are being done with Instagram and just visual media. A greater focus on image-based content, memes, things like that. SlideShare is one area that actually has a lot of great content going on, but is still quite frequently overlooked. Doug Kessler is one example of a marketer who does an amazing job with that. His slide shares on crap, is one looking at the state of content marketing, which was amazing. I think that wound up with over 500,000 views. You look at a lot of things Jay Baer is doing with his podcasts and interview sessions. And I think the key right now is finding a format that not just works well for your own strengths as a marketer or as an organization, but for your audience as well, and making that connection, because as more of these podcasts grow, then it's just going to become more and more important to differentiate and have that higher level of quality, have that audience connection that is going to be sustainable for these different types of formats.
Yeah, definitely some great examples that you mentioned. I'll also include a couple that I've seen, because I do listen to a lot of podcasts and I follow some really great examples. Actually, yesterday I was on a hangout with Pat Flynn and Chase Reeves. Mm-hmm. And doing a Google Hangout is another great way to reach another audience. Live interaction, people are asking questions, what problems that they're actually having, so they're actually giving you live feedback. Yep. And also another great example is Lewis Howes from the School of Greatness. He asks his audience to post a picture of where they're listening to his show on Instagram. He's immediately creating that engagement and starting to get interaction with his audience, because that's key with conversion. Understanding what your audience really wants and then being able to talk to them on a personal level.
Definitely. And even, we're talking about podcasts, and there are a lot of great examples there too. It's certainly cheap and budget friendly to do it these days. You don't need a whole lot of specialized equipment. The broadcasting is there. Even other, Hangouts like Google is another option, but even Twitter chats are just a very simple way to kind of get going. We started one a couple of months ago It's been very popular. We had some great guests on, Mike Stelzner from Social Media Examiner, Joe Palizzi from Content Marketing Institute. We had some mobile experts on the last one, and some of the things that Matt Collier does with Rockstar Blog Chat. There are a lot of ways to use social and different tools these days to really get that engagement and build out those audience relationships. So you're building a community and building fans, not just list names, for example, not just customers, but people who you're kind of getting to know through the social angles, through the content. And I think that's super important. That's really one way to kind of set apart what you do from a lot of sites and a lot of organizations that just sort of broadcast from a very one-dimensional perspective.
Well, let's emphasize on Twitter chats for a second, because maybe people who are new to social media or advanced content marketing, they're not familiar with what a Twitter chat is.
Oh, well, a Twitter chat is very simple. Using a hashtag that is assigned to the Twitter chat, people can keep tabs with the discussion as it flows through just by kind of watching the hashtag. Usually there is a host and often a guest, so the audience will ask questions via Twitter, and the host will respond to them. Audience members can jump in. Our most recent one on mobile, we did kind of a panel format, so we actually had about 5 experts on the last 1 or 2. So it really makes it very easy to, similar to a Hangout, ask questions of people that you'd love to pick their brains, experts in a certain topic, and you can kind of follow not just that one-to-one, but through the entire audience who's kind of listening. And you can also lurk and just kind of watch the answers as well, and kind of chime in off thread without using the hashtag. But it's very simple, and it's a great way to, really get an audience there together from all over the world. We've done some where folks will be contributing from Australia, from Europe at the same time, through North America. So it's just a great way to kind of build that community with a time frame and a topic and some people that are very focused.
Yep. I asked that because a lot of people do ask me, how do I get more Twitter followers? You need to actually go out and engage with people on Twitter. And Twitter chat is a great way to do that, because you're asking other people who have similar niches or parts of marketing that you may be interested in well. And when you're engaging with those people in this open chat room, what Twitter is all about, then you're more than likely probably to get people to follow you back and find people who you can really connect with online.
Totally.
So let's talk about that interaction. That, I think, is key to really building your community or your content marketing plans in general online. And you talk about interaction and not just broadcasting. What would be some examples of that?
Well, I'll use one of my favorite examples right off the top. And if you're not familiar with socialtriggers.com, Derek Halpern's site, it's one that I always recommend. He's a great friend. He's definitely great at content. And what he does that I really love with the welcome email that you get when you sign up for his list is he has 2 things that really stand out. One, he asks people to connect with him on social, on Facebook and Twitter, as well as joining his email list. So it's not just email. It's starting to build that relationship socially, even beyond the email inbox. And the other thing that I think is great about that welcome email, and it's so simple to do, is he asks a question for readers to take a very quick survey. It's only 4 questions long. He asks for name, location, so that if he does live events, he'll be able to know where to meet up with people who are in his audience, or to kind of figure out where to host events or do things like that. So it's great for segmentation as well. But then that other question is, tell me a little bit about your business. What are challenges that you're dealing with right now that I can help you out with? And it's just a very personal, one-to-one direct question. It's the kind that you would expect from someone face-to-face, not just from an email list or certainly a welcome email. But over the years, he's gotten thousands of responses to that question. So what that does is that helps build not just the content that he produces, so the videos that he puts together, the blog post topics that he puts together, the webinars and products that he puts together are all driven by that audience feedback and that audience input. So it's very much like user experience design from a content perspective, right? And now you think about that from the audience perspective. If I sign up for that email and I join him on Facebook or Twitter, and then I send in a quick response and say, hey, this is me and my business. This is what I'm dealing with right now. say a couple weeks or a month later, I get an email and his new video or his new blog post, his new product is very specific and relatable to my answer, what my business does, what I'm dealing with. Think about the engagement level for that with your audience. And when you multiply that by thousands of responses, you get a really good sense for who you're talking to. That's where we talk about not just broadcasting, but interacting. So another great example of that is Moz.com, which is one that's been sort of a pioneer in this. They had their own blog. They also had their community blog where the audience members in the community votes up some of the best, most valuable posts, and they hop over the fence into the Moz.com blog. Fizzle.co, they actually do a great job on building a community. They have guest posts because they take guest posts from the community, people who've learned some of the business lessons that they teach and some of the guidance, and they've applied that and they get those success stories, and then they put them front and center in that blog community. And those are just great ways for people to see what you're doing as not just email, not just another blog post, but to really see the results and to see themselves in it. And so people are a lot more likely to engage with that. And that, again, ties right back to the whole definition of optimization, where people are getting those wins, they're producing them, and you're helping other people learn and learn from them. These are ways that you're building a real community, not just an email list, quote unquote.
Yeah, great examples for sure. Social Triggers, Fizzle, and Moz, all companies that started out basically as blogs or trying to provide value for their audience,
Yeah.
and then turn that into products and communities. And now they find ways to create that one-on-one interaction and expand their brand even further. And each of the individual people who work there, have a point of view or personality, and that kind of comes out in their content. And that's what I want to talk about next is that personality and that voice, that perspective or point of view. What makes each of our content all different? What would be some examples of that?
Well, yeah, that's a great question too. And one of the best examples that I didn't even get to, but you were kind of leading in that direction, is Copyblogger. It started with one guy, Brian Clark, 2006. Recovering attorney as he calls himself, but had a great, great writing style and had a great grasp of what he was trying to do and who he was trying to help. I'm sure that everybody on this podcast is familiar with Copyblogger. If you're not, it's a great success story from taking a one-man band to something that is now a pretty significant company with a great group, and they have 4 or 5 different product lines. So I'm not even talking about eBay or big brands, things like that with this. I'm talking specifically with these examples about small shops, independent digital marketers who began and started great initiatives, and now they are small teams. So the point is that it's really well within your reach, that it isn't about having multi-million-dollar budgets or, that's so big, or looking at, the audience size of a Copyblogger or a Social Media Examiner and thinking, I can't do this. That's really where the personality and the persona comes into play. So you can think about Copyblogger as kind of a hub and spoke model, and similar with Social Media Examiner and Mike Stelzner. So each kind of started with a small nucleus, but really tried to find the best contributors and the best information, not just in terms of content, but the people who really understood it and had a voice and had a perspective that could back it up. So if you look at kind of the core stable of contributors and bloggers in either the independent version, like a Pat Flynn, or like a Scott Stratton, or a Jay Baer, and you kind of take the examples of what they've done with personality, with providing value to their audience, with being accessible, and being people that aren't afraid to, take a point of view, right? They don't just report tips. They actually put some analysis and some thought behind that. There's actually a huge difference between kind of blogging and reporting news and tips and things like that, and taking a stand and having an opinion and kind of staking your ground on different issues as they affect, either digital marketing or social media or other types of content that you may be dealing with, passive income, things like that. Marcus Sheridan and building, brick and mortar businesses with content marketing. It's not always that you have to sort of go out on a limb or be controversial for the sake of being controversial, but really having those opinions and putting that personality out there, and doing it in a way that's engaging and helpful is one that really helps certain people stand apart. Amy Porterfield, another guest of yours recently, is another great example. She's nice, she's engaging, and you listen to her on a webcast or a blog post, and you just get a ton of value out of that. That's the whole basis for Jay Baer's book on utility. It's kind of giving that first. So I think combining that with a great persona is really one of the keys for finding success with content and developing that audience. And that again goes back to the real life interaction. It's not just Twitter, it's not just a blog, it's not just a channel. You can kind of see how these people interact in life with folks in real life, and you can see it's reflected both ways. So the lessons really cross over in that way.
Yeah, you definitely mentioned some key things there, but allowing people's personalities to really come through in their content. You see that with all of the people that you've really mentioned. They share some of their personal things about their life, but they also concentrate on their business.
Yep.
But actually, in the value that they're providing, the content is always about you, the audience. It's not about me. Like, I'm not writing about myself. And actually, as I become a better copywriter, I'm actually trying to make my content focus on that. How can I provide more value to you guys, the audience? And that's why I asked for feedback. That's why all the people that he's mentioned all focus on don't trying to market to everybody and don't. And they keep their businesses relatively small. Like, for instance, you mentioned Moz. Moz has never actually paid for a sales team. They don't have any sales team. They've grown organically into a huge business now. Different softwares, different content. There's a trademark resource on the web for sure. And it's all kind of done through making the content mostly about you. Yep. And providing value for sure.
It's the hardest thing for marketers to do a lot of times. The job and the responsibility of marketing is to get your message out. So it really takes kind of a step back approach and put yourself in the audience's perspective, which is why I really love to sort of work with the UX community, because you think about what they do, they're all about listening. And a lot of what I had done in the past from the selling perspective and consultative sales was learning the importance of listening more so than talking. And it's tricky for sales as well, but this is the catch-22 of marketing and sales, is that we want to get our message out, but really one of the best things that we can do is take a pause and really think about what our audience needs, ask them what they want and what they need, figure out how we can best deliver that, and then take that value first, quote unquote, pay it forward approach where you're delivering that great value up front, and then people will naturally gravitate towards wanting to work with you. And it's really kind of turning the usual process on its head just a tiny bit.
Yeah. In web design, they call it customer or user-centered design.
Exactly. Absolutely right.
Everything that we design is functional, but
Yep.
it's not about me to make it pretty. It's how I can actually make it useful to the actual potential customer.
Exactly. Totally right.
Awesome. Well, let's start to close out. We can tell people how they can find out more about you and maybe share your Twitter as well.
Sure. On Twitter, I'm Hunter Boyle, and basically I tweet sometimes about marketing and try and provide some of that information, but I also drift off sometimes into craft beer and photography, other sorts of passions of mine. And one of the things I've tried to do with Twitter is, I can't tell you I tweet 12 times a day, but trying to put a little bit more of that personal side, not just marketing tips and information. So there's sort of that. And I do a lot of guest blogging these days. I'm at quite a few conferences, Conversion Conference, where you and I met. I'll be there in July, Authority Intensive in Denver in May, so some other ones coming up through the year. And you can find out more about what we do on the content side at AWeber.com and our blog. We have a great event coming up this October for digital marketers in Philadelphia as well, called the Ascend Summit. that you'll be hearing more about pretty soon, I hope. And we'd love to invite everybody to learn more about that. There's going to be some excellent information, some great speakers on content marketing and digital marketing optimization. So that site is ascendsummit.com. And look for some more of those. Please connect with me. And again, anything that I can do to help with your audience with this topic or some of the other ones, be happy to do so and connect with some of the folks out there.
Well, thank you for that. I'll definitely look forward to that conference. It sounds like you're definitely going to put together a great one for sure. What would be one thing that web marketers or content developers can do to really increase their conversion rates and take their content to the next level? Great question.
I think it goes back directly to what we were talking about with listening to your audience. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a deeply, intensive user experience process. I mean, we have that here, but we're sort of built for that. If you're kind of doing it on yourself, again, this is why I love the social triggers example so much. That's one survey question that lives in a welcome email. So you're not relying on an annual survey once a year. You're getting ongoing real-time feedback using something like that, or kind of a simple chat poll pop-up window on your site to ask about this or that. Seeking feedback when you're doing something with your blog, asking for comments when you're doing something with social, not just broadcasting, but throwing questions out there and trying to get people engaged to help tell you what else you can be doing to get better all the time. That's one that I think pays off in so many ways. It drives content, it drives your optimization strategy, it can help you shift or pivot if you need to. If you're starting a business or you're trying to figure out how to take it to the next level, product ideas, service ideas, asking your audience and just finding a simple way to do that and do it consistently is one of the biggest things that I would recommend.
Yeah, I love it because you're really dialing into your target audience or your avatar, as they say. And every time that you develop content, do a podcast, create a video, you always go back to that. Who am I actually talking to and what value am I can provide in this piece of content they're actually about to share their time with me?
Exactly. If you made it this far, stop, hit pause, and then just go add that quick question to your welcome email or to the bottom of your blog footer, a couple different places. But put that out there, ask, listen, pay attention to that feedback, and then apply it. That is the best recommendation I can make.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Hunter.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers.
Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.